Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Tuesday. We're about 4 days into our online learning. Hopefully, everyone's gotten through the first 3 sets of lecture notes and videos. Keep posting those questions. I'll try and get to you guys whenever you post them. Even though my office hours are 8 to 10 each day, feel free to contact me during that. But I will make sure I respond back to your discussion boards. All right, I've already had a few people ask questions. I'm done with you. Yes, I know 5 and 6 are on the same line, so you just don't have to put anything for question 6. Say there wasn't one. I've had multiple people call me out on that. Go figure. You guys normally do that. But today we'll have our 2-part day 4 video lecture. The first part is kind of finishing up what life's like for most Americans, especially the poor in the United States, which we touched on a little bit in video lecture 3. And then we're going to be moving on to segregation and looking at what life's like in the 1950s for African Americans in the United States, as well as other minority groups, and start to dive into that civil rights movement, which will be Unit 15 for us. So, hopefully everyone's staying healthy, everyone's still doing good. Get outside, take a walk, do something, get some exercise. I know it's tough being inside, but, make the most of it, okay? Continue to get your stuff done. Continue to work hard. You guys are being great so far, and we'll get through this together, all right? Remember, tomorrow, Wednesday, you have a quiz. You just have to log into Canvas. It's all 32 vocab words, okay? But there's no time limit. So all 32, no time limit. It is matching. So make sure you understand those. Make sure you get them done. You have from midnight to 11:59 p.m. So you have literally 24 hours to get that done. So make sure you're getting that done at some point tomorrow. So you guys ready? Let's dive on in. Let's go. So the poor and post-war American invisible class. At the end of the 1950s, about 1 in 4 Americans are living below the poverty line. And we talked about what the poverty line was in day 3 as that line that was set by Congress to say, okay, you make X amount of money. So you make below minimum wage. Well, you're living below the poverty line. You don't make enough for you and your family to survive. So you got to think about that. 1 in 4, that's 25% of the United States is living below the poverty line, or 50 million Americans. Man, this is taking us back to like 1929, 1930 in the United States during the Great Depression when we had 1 in 4 people that were unemployed. So this is obviously kind of a crisis. Now, why are people not talking about it so much? Well, the reason is, people have money and they're living in the suburbs and they don't see it. Obviously, is poverty still a problem in the United States? Absolutely. Yes, it is. But do you see it? Think about driving around Delaware, Ohio. Do you see people sitting on the street corners or under bridges or begging for money or begging for food? Probably not, because you live around a suburb. You go to New York City, are you going to see that? Absolutely. If you go to Los Angeles, are you going to see it? Absolutely. Chicago, yes, because those big urban areas tend to be where the homeless populations and the poverty is the highest, all right, because they can't escape. The cities are where the jobs are, and so that's where the people have to go that are struggling, all right? Also, if you go to warm weather areas, you have a higher amount of poverty because you see a lot of people, transient society, moving to these areas because then they don't have to deal with things such as the harsh winters. Poverty in America was camouflaged and stowed away. Where the poor live, what they wore, and you have to think about this. If someone doesn't have a whole lot of money, but they don't want you to know that they're poor, they can disguise it. They can have a few nice outfits, and so when you see them walking on the streets and stuff like that, or you stop and talk to them, you'll have no idea about their, the amount of money that they make, or if they're struggling or not, because they've disguised themselves to the point where you can't tell the difference. They look just like you. But obviously you don't know their economic situation. The movement to the suburbs caused a lack of knowledge because people are leaving the situation. And once you leave the situation, think about it. You're not going to think about it anymore. you're going to leave, go somewhere else, and the idea of people struggling is no longer on your mind because here you are in a neighborhood where people are just like you, have similar homes, have 2 cars, 2 garages, and life's good. So you're not going to sit back and say, well, remember those people in the city that are struggling? Maybe we shouldn't get this because they need it. Not too many people think like that. The poor also wielded no political power. They didn't have a voice in Congress. A president did not represent them. So it makes it really hard for people to fight for what they need. Left behind in the inner cities. In the 1950s, poor people moved to the city. This turned into overcrowded slums, high rates of poverty, and unemployment. So this is similar to today where you see our highest numbers of poverty and unemployment are in the cities. Congress passed the Housing Act of 1949, which was supposed to give every American a decent home. That was the idea behind it. We're like, hey, we're going to pass this act. We're going to make sure every single person in the United States has a decent place to stay, no matter how much income they make. This also started the urban renewal process. Urban renewal is something that the government tried to jumpstart because they wanted to reinvigorate or recreate the cities. Urban is city, renewal, they're making it new again. Okay? The government demolished many slums and replaced them with high-rises. If you go to the south side of Chicago and you drive in, you can see this. So they go through, they destroy the slums, and they say, hey, we're going to make these nice high-rise apartments, all right? And when they make these high-rise apartments, the only thing that they're not taking into consideration are the people that are going to inhabit these apartments. It's going to be the same people that were living in the slums. So look what happened to the slums. The same thing's going to happen to the apartments. Now, their thought process was, if we give them something nice, they're going to take care of it. And yes, that's true, but you're still going to have the same problems. You're going to have drug problems there. You have high unemployment there, so people are not going to be able to make their payments. So, yes, in theory, the Housing Act was good, but what put into practice, it actually didn't help American society. All of these plans that the American government made actually made poverty worse. It didn't actually help. So the thought behind it was good by the United States government, but when put into practice, it didn't work out that well. And you can understand why, because they're not actually fixing the situation. They're just putting Band-Aids on it, right? It's like, hey, here's a better house, live there, but at the same time, I'm not actually getting you a job, and I'm not giving you any financial assistance, so it's really not going to help out too much, all right? Oh, there's Colton making a second appearance. Give a high five, Colt. Boom. All right, Colton's back in for a little bit today. Now, other people struggled as well. The people that are trying to live off the land. So we always talk about farmers as being ones that struggle a lot during these situations and economic crisis. And that's no different in the 1950s. Farmers are struggling because think about it. They went from having a bunch of land and farming that land and giving crops to like our soldiers. And so they had a surplus of crops. They had tons of people to buy them. So all of a sudden, now they're no longer feeding soldiers. They're just feeding the American public. But there's a lot of people in the American public that can't afford it because they're living below that poverty line. So we introduced what's known as agribusiness. This is the industry of food production by large corporations or wealthy industries. So like Tyson Foods is an agribusiness. They employ farmers to produce chickens for them. Or eggs for them. My first period knows what I'm talking about. Love the eggs. All right? Agribusiness was profitable, but it hurt the poor rural farmers. So if you're a small farmer and you're not part of an agribusiness, there's no way that you can survive. It's just not feasible for you. You need to latch on to one of these bigger companies and farm for them because guess what? They're going to pay you no matter what. They're going to pay for your farm equipment. They're going to pay for your land. They're going to pay for the seed. And they're going to be the ones buying your product. So you have someone that's going to buy from you no matter what. Okay? Small farmers cannot compete with the agribusiness. So, imagine a small farm in Delaware, Ohio isn't going to be able to compete with Tyson Farms because Tyson Farms has thousands of farms working for it, where the small farm in Delaware, Ohio, it's just working for itself. The poor rural whites and blacks moved off the land and into the cities, which isn't going to help our housing problem isn't going to help our economic problem. It's going to create more poverty within the United States. Appalachia is an area, you guys have probably heard of the Appalachian Trail, the Appalachian Mountains. This is like southeastern Ohio, West Virginia, into Virginia, North Carolina, along the Blue Ridge Trail there, that struggled immensely and still struggles to this day. Appalachia is a mountainous region in the south, which was very poor. Most of this was old coal mining areas where that industry had left or had moved or the coal mines had dried up. And we still see this today. A lot of schools and a lot of areas in Appalachia didn't get electricity until very late. You're talking the 70s or 80s. Indoor plumbing till the 70s or 80s, heck, even into the 90s for a lot of these areas. So not only educationally do they struggle in these areas, there's extremely high unemployment rates, and there's extremely high poverty in these areas. If you drive past Athens, Ohio, where OU is, and you keep heading south on 33, if a lot of you guys go to vacation down the south, you take 33 through the southern part of Ohio, down to West Virginia, and then down into Virginia, and you drive through a lot of this Appalachia. Homes tucked back into haulers and things like that, and that's just how life is. That's one of the areas where I go and I hunt, all right? Because people live off the land in these areas, and there's not a lot of connection to the outside world. Like, there's no cell phone service and things like that. And so the farming areas, especially the extremely poor farming areas, struggle during this, unless they joined an agribusiness. America's poorest citizens, the U.S. poorest citizens were the Native Americans. Living on reservations seemed the most invisible to everyone else because, think about it, the reservations are tucked away, hidden from everyone else. So no one actually knew what was happening to Native Americans. And the American government kind of wanted to rid themselves of this Native American problem. The government wanted to disconnect from reservations after World War II because it simply was costing them too much money. So what do? Well, they come up with a termination policy. When you hear the term terminate, you pretty much think get rid of, right? An exterminator or to terminate a contract. You're getting rid of it. You don't want it anymore. So the termination policy ended federal aid to tribes and withdrew federal land protection and distributed tribal land among individuals. Pretty much it's saying what? The American government is no longer running or funding reservations. That's it. After World War II, we're done with them. It's no longer an American problem. It is now a Native American tribal problem. Voluntary relocation program is introduced where it encouraged Native Americans to move to the cities. So we're like, hey, we'll help you relocate off of these reservations, but we're not going to help you once you're into the cities. Then it's on you. It's on you to do what you can do on your own. All right. So Native Americans struggled immensely with this, as well as our farmers. Now, that's it for this first part of my lecture for day 4. I'm going to get in part 2 here in a second, but it's going to be a separate video because I can only upload like 15 minutes at a time to YouTube. But make sure you are continue working on your reading questions, and I guess I'll see you here in a second, right? Hang tight. I'll be right back.